Yo, 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 yo. Hey, what's going on, y'all? When is it time to upgrade your amplifier? Welcome back to the Baseline Frequency, Season 2, where we upgrading smart, y'all. Last episode, we talked about the bass knob, but you can't even use a bass knob the right way without one of the most important parts of your system. You already know it's the amplifier. Let's get it. So if your amp ain't right, your whole system ain't right. I mean, you can have the best subs, the cleanest box, but if your amplifier is weak, clipped, or set wrong, you're leaving performance on the table. And I think some of y'all already know this. I know this to be a fact. And man, do I have stories, but we don't have all that time to talk about that. But neither here nor there. Let's get on with this. Okay, so let's talk about what the amplifier actually does. So your amplifier is what gives your subs power. No amp, no real bass. Break it simple. Head unit signal equals small. Amplifier equal boosted signal. Sends power to the subs. And it's the engine of your whole bass system. So, how it connects to the bass knob? Well, bring your idea in. The bass knob we talked about, it controls the signal going into the amplifier. So if your amp isn't set right, that knob can't save you. Because control means nothing without power. You can have 30 bass knobs. I'm just playing. You can't. I don't think you can. But either way, that one bass knob is not going to do anything if your amp don't have power. Well, it might, but I mean, I don't think you're going to get the satisfactory out of it that you would when you got a powerful amp pushing some amazing subs. So, yeah. With that being said, let's talk about the signs you need to upgrade your amp. Bass cuts out at higher volume. You've heard that. Most factories do that. So, yeah. And I think that's because they're tuned to a certain range that they go to, and then I guess it's trying to save the speakers or whatever, however that works. But either way, let's talk. Let's see. Your amp gets hot too fast. Yeah, distortions at moderate levels, and that I've seen a guy. He was in a what was that? I think a Mustang. I can't remember the 12s he was pushing, but he sounded good. But when he got to that certain level, you can tell this music got real muddy, and it almost sounded like one of those really cheap, not the modern type cars, but the what's it say about the 90s, early 2000 cars. They cut it up and then that bass sound all, that noise sounds real raggedy and can't hear the talking over the distortion. But yeah, so he started sounding like that, and we figured out that, well, for one, he needed a new amp. Two, he'd bust a speaker, but we'll talk about that another time. But either way, let's get back to this this little scenario we got going on here. So some more signs. Let's see. We talked about the bass cuts out at high volume. The amp gets hot too fast. Distortion at moderate level. Lights dim heavy when bass hits. And I seriously believe that's mostly with the your alternator and your battery. Yeah, that man, that'll do it. I promise you. But yeah, that's signs that you need to upgrade your amp to. Let's see, system just feels weak. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the reason why you got the amp in the first place because it wasn't the power just wasn't there that you really wanted, and so you feel that you need more power, and then that's how you constantly upgrade. After a while, you'll want more, and then you'll want more, and then you want more. I mean, that's the way I did. But me, I had to put a cap on this, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't want to just be breaking glass and mirrors falling all down out the window every time, every other 2 weeks after just heavy beating in the trunk, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I guess that's your perspective on that. I think you need to know what the wattage is, your own levels, how you're going to have everything. So then, you won't be constantly upgrading amps and stuff unless you just want to, you old bass head. But anyway, so let's move right along. If your system sounds tired, your amp might be tired. And yeah, I had a SPL, y'all. It was, what was it, 1200? Man, that thing sound good too, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I had a little friend, and they stayed right off the interstate, and they said that they could hear me. I used to have my volume at like volume, I say volume 5, and that thing was rumbling, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. And they say that they could hear my beat like a good 5 minutes before you even really saw me and really heard the rumble. But then later on, then 5 minutes went from like 20 minutes. You couldn't hear me anymore. And I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I think I wore that amp out because at the time I don't think I really realized what I had. So I had all the gains turned up, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I don't even think it was bass knob. I don't think I even had a bass knob. No, I didn't. But man, I was cranking that system. Either way, it's gone now. So, and I've learned my lesson. But yeah, so let's talk about this when it's not the amp. Don't just go buying an amp thinking it's that it'll fix everything. I mean, let's talk about some of the scenarios that could possibly be. It might actually be a bad gain setting. We talked about that. I had my gains all over the place. And sometimes you have them too far up, it'll cause distortion before the amp can even just really put its power to it. And when it try and put its power to it, sure, I say, you got distortion, you gonna pop a speaker. So yeah, don't do that. Let's talk about the weak electrical system. We talked about that. That alternator, y'all, I don't think y'all realize. Well, some of y'all out there, I don't think y'all realize how important that alternator is, depending on how you want your system to be sounding, basically. How you want it to be. Well, how much bass and how powerful you want that your system to be, because some people be using these old factory alternators, and I mean, they'll be trying to put, man, I can't even tell you, Think of a high watt amp, low ohms, and trying to put these old fat wiring on these 2,000 watt piece speakers and wonder why you blow that alternator within a week. Yeah, so yeah, work on that alternator part and then get you a battery, a good battery, because some of those batteries, well, I almost said these people's name, but you know those batteries from a certain place that really just be, man, what's the word? Re a battery that been redone over and put back out on the shelf for somebody else to buy. You know what I'm saying? Those with dead cells and all that. That's stuff there. That's not good for your system. Get you a good battery. You know what? I think we're gonna talk about that on a future episode. Some good power electrical stuff that can make your system perform better. Yeah. But yeah, weak electrical system. Poor enclosure. We talked about that back in season one about the box. It wasn't up to par and it showed. I mean, you gotta have good enclosure. Cheap wiring. We also talked about this with me setting my whole car on fire almost. Burnt the carpet all up because I had these little, cheap wires and they didn't hold no power, man. Matter of fact, well, like I said, it burned. I'm so happy it didn't burn that battery up though, because that would have been bad. But it took it from the very front where the radio was all the way clean to the back where the amp was. A nice little burn line. So yeah, be careful with that cheap and small wiring. So let's see. Yeah, you don't. Those things right there. Look at that before you go upgrading your amp. Don't upgrade the amp if the problem is somewhere else that could possibly become an annoyance later on, because it will. The higher the amp. So what a better amp actually does. Now, a proper amp upgrade gives you cleaner power, more headroom, less distortion, and better control of your subs. It's not just louder, but it's cleaner. And here's where people mess up. And we're going to talk about some of the common mistakes. Buying amps based on peak watts, ignoring RMS ratings, not matching subs properly, cheap amps with fake ratings. That 3,000 watt amp you got for 80? Yeah, we need to talk, y'all. We need to talk. I mean, come on. Do you really think you're going to get 3,000 watt for 80 bucks? I mean, 3,000 real watts, true watts. Yeah, I think we're gonna talk about that also in another. Because I don't like when y'all get upset about that. Because I ain't gonna lie, it's easy to get caught up, especially if you don't know your some of the better brands, and some brands that's out there that you think not good because you ain't never heard of it be some of the better ones, but I digress. Either way, let's do a recap of what we talked about here. So Here's the truth about the amplifiers. It's the power source. It controls performance. It connects everything in your system. It does. Bad amp equals bad system. So your system is only as strong as your amp. Because I mean, don't nothing move without the amp really. So you can have all the crossovers, all the EQs. If you ain't got an amp, I mean, sure, it's an amp in the radio. So I mean, come on. You gotta get these systems out there right, man. Y'all know this. So yeah, I ain't fussing at you. I'm just saying, and I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm talking to myself too, cause sometimes I be doing some stuff. But yeah. So let's talk about the bass track of the week, right? All right. So the bass track of the week. This one is perfect for testing your amplifier because it'll show you real quick if your power is clean or not. And drum roll, let's go.
We call this bass attention, cause apparently, your system, needs attention. Nah, just kidding. Bass attention, let's go.
Raise the boom, raise the boom, raise the boom,
Attention when we come this way.
raise the boom, raise the boom, raise the boom,
Attention when we come this way.
raise the boom, raise the boom, raise the boom,
Attention when we come this way.
raise the boom, raise the boom, raise the boom,
Attention when we come this way. I command attention when we come this way. I command attention when we come this way. All right, all right, all right. Let's close it up, shall we? So we talked about what type of upgrade, what kind of upgrade that you could possibly need as far as the amp is concerned. When you should be able, well, when you should even think about upgrading your amp, and also your do's and your don'ts in your amps. And I want to say again that we're going to definitely talk about some of the power do's and don'ts to make sure your amp is good and healthy and up to par. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of other things we talked about, but if I didn't say it, feel free to re-listen to this podcast over again. I appreciate y'all checking me out. And yo, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit follow so you don't miss the next drop. And season 2, we still talking about smart upgrades, better system. So, I ain't got nothing else to say. Y'all have a good one. I'ma holler at you. Until then, Scope the producer. You better know it. We out till next time. Alright.